is Michelle Arteaga, and today we're going to be talking about the power of queer. Some qualitative pre-questions and post-questions include 1. When do we learn gender? 2. Why do same-sex parents feel accountable for their children's gender performance? 3. What does much of the sociological research focus on, and what does it assume? 4. What is queering? 5. What is heteronormativity? 6. What is a queer theory focused on? 7. What are some challenges gay moms go through? And 8. Is the necessity of male or female role models necessary to raise children? Doing gender. Doing gender views gender as something created in interaction with others and a performance for which we are all held accountable. It's learned in childhood, but changed as it is learned, relearned, and revised as it depends on social situations. So as life goes on, our views on gender are constantly changing and evolving. Many express gender differently. One might express it one way at a young age and very differently as they get older. Some parents can become accountable for their children as they fear them playing with cross-gender toys. For example, if a little girl starts playing with toy cars instead of Barbies, or if a little boy starts playing with Barbies instead of toy cars, and the parents usually start thinking that something's not normal, or they start doubting themselves as parents, or like what's going on. But usually some parents are okay with it. Also because gays and lesbians are viewed as a threat to children's heterosexual orientation. All parents do gender in different ways, from how they dress their own children to the chores they give them at home. Heteronormative views of family life. It can be conceptualized as assumptions and practices grounded in the belief that heterosexuality is the norm. Sex, gender, sexual orientation, and gendered social roles are identical. It also organizes social, political, and economic structures. It doesn't only let others know how heterosexual-headed families do things, it also penalizes LGBTQ by denying and excluding them from everyday activities. For example, denying them legal rights or existence in schools. For example, some schools don't have protections against the LGBTQ community.
Queering family and motherhood. Queering involves a transgressing position or something that might deconstruct and destabilize accepted ideas about the way things work. Queering motherhood describes any act of mothering that is transgressive or deconstructs norms around mothering. Numerous lesbian and gay parents have had their children rejected from Catholic schools or prohibited from participating in Boy Scout activities, have queered the family, drawing public attention both to the heteronormative assumptions about family and caring for children. Queering family structure. Reproduction in LGBTQ families often involves more than two people and a radical disruption of gender in the case of pregnant trans men. Heterosexual couples have the option to disclose whether an egg or sperm donor was involved. However, same-sex couples do not have that option. The lack of biological connection between family members is visible. When children have a significant relationship to a donor dad or a shared parenting arrangement with a biological parent who is not romantically involved with the same-sex couple or queer single parent, it illustrates possibilities for family structure beyond the nuclear family. Among lesbian couples, the non-biological mother's role is often contested by relatives and devalued by individuals in other institutions, such as schools and healthcare settings. The politics of sameness. Families that include one mother, one father, and their biological children are assumed to be the gold standard, to which LGBTQ families must measure up. Multiple studies, particularly of lesbian mothers, find few differences between children of same-sex and heterosexual families in their mental health, school outcomes, sexual behavior, substance abuse, peer victimization, or family relationships. Several studies find lesbian mothers have greater parental investment in child rearing and fewer parenting disagreements with their co-parent relative to heterosexual parents. One of the most notable differences is the lack of abuse among lesbian-headed families. In contrast, over 1/4 of children in heterosexual families report physical abuse, and 8% report sexual abuse. Although multiple studies suggest some differences between gay and lesbian-headed and heterosexual-headed families, the politics of sameness seeks to de-emphasize difference.
Homonormativity, the new normal. Now that same-sex couples and families have become more visible and have more rights and privileges, it is now normalized. It refers to societal acceptance of gays and lesbians based on their ability to express heteronormative values and behaviors. Also orders who is an acceptable and unacceptable sexual orientation or gender minority. The closer a couple and family resemble a heteronormative family, the more valuable and less sanctionized they are. As privileges become available to LGBTQ families, it is likely that socioeconomic status, immigration status, race, ethnicity, and gender identity and expressions will begin to dictate who among LGBTQ people gain access to privileges and who does not. So now that it has been normalized, it's seen as an equal opportunity for gays and lesbians as it is for heterosexuals. Transgressive mothering. One important aspect of queering is its focus on deviant cases of gender, sexual behavior, or identities that do not neatly fit into assumed categories, especially the binaries of sex, gender, and sexual orientation. Doisier's social position as a guy mom, a masculine, trans-identified mother, queers the concepts of mothering, nurturing, families, and the natural division of labor. As a guy mom, Dozier believes that his participation in everyday mothering, notions of gender mothering, and the family, masculine appearance coupled with mothering behaviors disrupts the natural correlation and reproduction, mothering, and femininity. One of the examples he mentioned is about a female trans man that was interviewed, had a baby after transitioning. The social impossibility of this meant that no one saw past his facial hair to interpret his body as pregnant. Guy moms, gender, and single motherhood. Crucial aspects of gender is our various social position. Social positions refers to the statuses one has in relation to individuals and institutions such as employers, families, schools, and legal systems. When a social position is highly correlated with being male or female, social policy, laws, and culture development in response and have the effect of creating and sustaining structural inequalities. The gender social position, single mother, affects individuals not because they are feminine or identify as women, but because they are gender differences in access to power and resources.
Queering childhood unexamined possibilities. The necessity of male or female role models. One common concern is whether a child can have a healthy development without a male role model, and in the case of gay male parents, a female role model. It is widely believed that male and female role models are necessary to socialize children into gender. There's a fear that if boys don't have a male role model, they won't grow into real men. The question is, does doing guy things with the children then make you an adequate male role model if you don't identify as male? It is unclear what a male or female must do to assure that they teach their child how to grow up appropriately gendered. The lie of gender differentiation. Parents seek role models for their children in the belief that behavior observed by children can influence their future behavior and development. One study's findings suggest that early exposure to disruptions in the gender binary may have long-lasting effects on behavior. This finding implies that children exposure to the decoupling of masculinity and femininity from sex and gender identity could result in adults with more diverse sets of behaviors and interests and altered world views. For our quiz, there is 7 multiple choice questions. The first one, what does much of the sociological research focus on when it comes to the family? Number 2, through the concept of doing gender, who is held accountable when viewing gender as something created in interactions with others and performance? Number 3, which of the following best explains an example of how others interpret our behaviors through the lens of gender? Number 4, what is the queer theory focused on? Number 5, same-sex parenting challenges what we assume to be natural and necessary for mothering and families. What is something that is considered essential to creating family? Number 6 is true or false. The lack of abuse among lesbian-headed families compared to over 1/4 of children in heterosexual families that report physical abuse and report 8% sexual abuse. Number 7, same-sex parents feel accountable for their children's gender performance because they are often viewed as a threat to their children's heterosexual orientation. And it's also true or false. The power of queer. These are our qualitative pre-questions and post-questions. When do we learn gender? Why do same-sex parents feel accountable for their children's gender performance? What does much of sociological research focus on? What does it assume? What is queering? What is heteronormativity? What is the queer theory focused on? What are some challenges guy moms go through? Is the necessity of male or female role models necessary to raise children? And for our activity, question is the necessity of male or female role models necessary to raise children? What are your thoughts on the necessity of male or female role models to raise children? Do you think they are both necessary? Briefly explain your reasons why you think that way, 4 to 5 sentences, and you can use images that relate to your explanations.